KSJE Farmington. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, a community-owned and operated hospital. Here for you when you need us. From emergency care to routine checkups and screenings, caregivers are here and ready to provide the safe, high-quality care you need close to home. Online at sanjuanregional.com with the latest health information and resources to help you live life better here. 10 minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Monday morning, November the 8th, 2021. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin, and thanks for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM, over the air, of course, here at San Juan County, New Mexico. 103.3 FM over the air in Durango, Colorado, and streaming everywhere else on Earth from our website at KSJE.com. Welcome also to our viewers, because this is a visual radio program. The video is streaming live this morning out to the KSJE Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our Twitter account. So we're glad that you are with us this morning. Thank you for joining us, everyone, because our focus today is economic development. Arvin Trujillo, the CEO of Four Corners Economic Development, is my guest. We'll be talking with him in the next few moments right here on KSJE. And then later on this hour at 8:50 a.m., our weekly technology segment called Monday Reboot. That is coming up with Lewis Campbell from Synergy Computer Systems, live at 8:50 a.m. this morning on KSJE. Next hour, it's Roving with the Arts, our classical music program with Mick Hess. And this morning, Mick is featuring music from Antonin Dvorak on the program today, after the news at 9 a.m. on KSJE. We invite you to connect with us on social media, of course, in addition to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can also find us on Instagram as well. And if you're a podcast person, we can help you out there as well. Subscribe for free to KSJE Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, for some local information. iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, Google Podcasts, and many, many more. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and take KSJE with you on all of your travels and activities. Weather forecast, pretty good for travels and activities today, as a matter of fact. Increasing sunshine on this Monday and pretty mild, 70 degrees. Could be the last time we see temperatures that warm in quite a while this season. 70 for a high today, 36 and clear overnight. Tomorrow, partly sunny skies with a high of 64. On Tuesday, maybe a shower overnight with a low of 39. Mostly sunny skies, though, on Wednesday with a high of 60. 59 and sunny on Thursday, 60 on Friday. Temperatures ranging right around 60 degrees for the next several days, and overnight lows in the mid to lower 30s. Well, let me introduce my guest, who is joining me this morning from his offices at Four Corners Economic Development. Arvin Trujillo is here this morning. Mr. Trujillo, good morning. Always great to have you on the program. Hello.
Good morning, Scott. Good to be here. First thing Monday morning.
That's right. After a time change.
Bushy-tailed. We're ready to go.
After a time change, so maybe an extra hour to sleep in. I don't know, but great to have you here to talk about one of our favorite topics, which is economic development. It's an ongoing issue, I know. And so let me ask you just how things are going. I know you have a lot of irons in the fire, as you always do.
Yeah, we have a number of things going. We're moving forward with our railroad project. Right now, we are working with the county and the Navajo Nation. We're putting out an RFP for an engineering firm to come in and help us out with that planning aspect. The dollars have been released, which is $2 million out of the federal bill grant through the U.S. Department of Transportation. So that's moving forward. We're also been in some initial meetings with chapters on the western side of the county with Tisnaspas and Beklabato, talking about pump storage hydroelectric developments out there and looking at a possible project out there. We're in the processes of just beginning to educate the community and letting them know what we're looking at, and there seems to be a lot of interest in that. Of course, there's a lot of questions. And that's what we're working on, is just to make sure that people are informed and provide as much information as possible concerning that aspect.
Right. And that was
And
an interesting, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I thought that was an interesting project when you first mentioned it a few months ago on this program, Arvin Trujillo, about this pump storage and kind of hydroelectric combo for these chapters and to help with the energy in this area. And maybe just take a moment to explain again to our audiences just kind of what we're talking about and why it really needs to be physically located in that part of San Juan County near the mountains, right?
yes, basically what we're looking at is a battery. But we're not looking at a chemical reaction. We're simply looking at geological features that will allow us to produce electricity utilizing water. Basically, you put you build a reservoir on top of the mountain site, which would be the Carrizo Mountains, and then you build a spillway that would go down the mountain underground. There's approximately a 3,000 foot drop in that spillway. At the bottom of that, you would have basically a hydroelectric power plant. So the water would turn to turbines and flow into a lower reservoir. And then as you have excess renewable power being generated during the day, you pump water back up into the upper lake. And very basic, the big thing about this is we found that this might be one of the best sites within the U.S. to build such a project. And we've got the transmission capabilities here. We've got the geology in place. There's a real push by the Navajo Nation to move towards renewables. We are looking at that aspect too here in the county. So a lot of pluses here that would really look at bringing this project to this area. And more importantly, the type of power that would be generated by this project would be about 1,500 megawatts over a 70-hour period, which would be equivalent to the Four Corners power plant when it had all 5 units operating.
Wow.
So we've got a lot there that we're looking at, and we're wanting to educate folks about exactly what this project is all about.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for reminding us about it, because I think that answers one of the biggest maybe negatives that folks bring up when we talk about renewables is that, well, what happens when the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow, and maybe in the overnight hours when there's still a demand for energy, and yet all those solar fields are offline and the turbines or the windmills are offline and things along that line. And what you're suggesting is that during the day, maybe you use solar to pump the water to the top of the mountain, and then when you need more energy at night, you can release that water down the spillway to push those turbines around and create energy when there's not as much power coming from those other sources. Am I understanding that kind of correctly?
That's correct. And again, the idea here is being able to have electricity on those off hours, whether you have wind or solar in place, when the sun's not shining or when the wind's not blowing, you have this project here that could still generate electricity and produce power for whatever reasons you would need that power for, be it driving homes or industry or manufacturing. There are a number of opportunities there. So we're really excited about looking at this project and really beginning to educate the community about this effort. And it's going to be the same thing when we get to the rail project, when we get things moving, is educating the communities along the route about the rail project and what it entails and what opportunities could come as a result of having rail coming to San Juan County.
Very true. Well, that's exciting, and of course, you need to have the Navajo Nation on board as a partner. It sounds like you're in those meetings and making those connections, and they seem interested as well as seeing this move forward. It would be economic development for the western part of the county, I would think. And as you mentioned, it's a battery, but not how we think of battery, but certainly energy storage. And it seems to me that this idea and this concept is able to be ramped up fairly quickly, and that's something else we hear about when we talk about energy is for big power plants and things like that. It maybe takes a while to get them up to speed, but something like this could be done fairly quickly, I think.
Yes, it could, and we're understanding it more and more. But you can get the power up fairly quickly by opening the spillways, and of course you can bring it down very quickly too by shutting the gates off. There are a number of safety aspects involved in this because, again, you've got a lot of power coming down that mountain with all that water. So again, there are precautions that have to be made, but again, this is all looking at natural processes to produce this power. So there are no emissions, there are no chemical processes involved. It's simply water flowing downhill, turning wheels.
Very true. Very true. My guest this morning, Arvin Trujillo, is here. He is the CEO of Four Corners Economic Development. Our topic is economic development. And Arvin Trujillo, you have an event tomorrow morning that I wanted to ask you a little bit about. And I know a lot of folks in the community are looking forward to it, but give us some idea of what you've got planned for tomorrow during this time.
Yes, we have a gentleman by the name of Jack Morgan coming to town. He's from Washington, D.C. He's with the National Association of Counties, but he's the Senior Program Manager of Resilient Economies and Communities within the NACO. Basically, this group goes around the country and has been going around the country since 2016, really visiting different communities, different coal-reliant or fossil fuel-reliant communities, seeing what those communities are having to do as they begin to transition, bringing those communities together to see how they could best be supported, allowing these communities to talk with each other, to learn from one another as to how they're proceeding through their efforts. And so we're bringing Mr. Morgan in to, one, kind of give us an idea as to what is happening around the country with a number of different communities. We also want to bring him in to kind of show him what we're doing here in San Juan County and how we're proceeding with our efforts and some of the goals that we have in place, so that, again, we're looking to see how we might be able to best interact with other communities. He's a good resource to touch base with them across the country, but more importantly, here in the western part of the U.S. And so we're really, really excited about having Mr. Morgan coming in. We're going to have what we're calling a breakfast economic development briefing. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be holding these briefings every quarter. And tomorrow's briefing will be from 7:30 to 9 a.m. at the Farmington Civic Center. We are getting a lot of responses from folks who want to attend. We do have information out there where you can register via Eventbrite.
Okay.
And
it's pardon me for interrupting, but it's a free event, isn't it? But you just want a number so you know how many to plan for? Is that the idea for tomorrow?
Yes. Basically, all we need to do is find out how many people are planning to come so that we don't run out of burritos for folks.
Right.
We'd like to have a little breakfast there for them and give them a chance to listen to Mr. Morgan and possibly meet with him afterwards. And so we're really excited about Mr. Morgan coming into town and kind of sharing his knowledge and sharing what he's seen across the country with us, and possibly giving us some insights as we continue our efforts in transitioning our economy here in San Juan County, as well as the greater Four Corners region.
Right, right. And he is primarily bringing a message about how communities that had big coal industries in their communities have transitioned to the world beyond coal or after coal, those types of topics, correct?
Yes. And what they've done is they've held a number of workshops. I had the opportunity to attend one when I was still with APS on behalf of Forsaid. I attended a workshop in West Virginia where we had a number of Appalachian communities, along with the communities out of Michigan, as well as up in the Wyoming area, attend that workshop. And we had a chance to listen to what everybody was doing, what they saw as some possible goals and initiatives that they could push for their particular communities. as they saw coal development begin to become minimized within their communities. And so that was the start. It was out of that initial meeting that we began to think about the Four Corners future forums that were held in 2017. We then we went and had another, or we attended another workshop back in I think it was 2018, up in Denver. And again, we were looking at how to continue our efforts, how to really begin to develop our partnerships with the surrounding communities. We had individuals from Cibola County, from McKinley County here in San Juan, and from Southwest Colorado attend. And so we had a chance to really kind of collaborate and find out what everybody was doing. And it just built on our efforts with the Four Corners Future Forum. So we were able to see some immediate benefits from attending these workshops. And they've continued this effort with other communities. And so again, this is a great opportunity for us to hear what is happening, for us to also listen to see what is possible here as we begin to look at those aspects of transitioning our community or the economy within our community. And how do we look at our partnerships, and how do we begin to look at our assets and identifying those assets in order to help us make that transition?
Sure. And it's an important conversation. I know it may not be an enjoyable conversation for folks who are directly impacted by the industry to think about it maybe going away or being diminished, but I think it's an important conversation to have, especially here when we've been somewhat reliant and dependent, economically speaking, on the coal industry for as many years as we have. So thank you for bringing that to the community. Once again, it is your economic development briefing tomorrow morning at the Farmington Civic Center. You still have room for more folks to come and to register, Arvin Trujillo? You're not sold out yet?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And again, we would love to have folks come and listen. I would like to meet as many people as I can within the community, because again, this is a team effort. We need to really look at this as a community effort. And one of the things that we are building here is our team aspects, because we want to make sure that we get feedback from all sectors of the community here in San Juan County. And so again, we have goal teams, we have business retention and expansion teams, and we have focus groups that we're working with right now to really help us identify those target industries, working on our website, looking at how we continue to build our partnerships, and how do we continue to help support our local businesses. And we can't do this without the assistance of the community, getting insight from the community, understanding what information they have available, and importantly, also how we can share our information, how we can educate our community members about economic development, what that entails, how do we get involved, how do we get businesses involved, industries here, schools here in the area, how do we all work collectively in order to really not look at business retention and expansion only, but how do we look at recruitment? How do we bring those target industries in this area as we build up these areas of infrastructure with broadband, with electric power, with rail? Once we get these pieces of infrastructure in, how do we take advantage of that in order to really begin to diversify our economy here and bring new industry into the region? And so again, this is going to be a team effort. I would really like to invite folks to come to tomorrow's briefing, and from there really take a look and see what we have to do in terms of really begin to make it a turn within our community. Because again, what the thing I continue to tell people is time is not infinite. Right now we're looking at San Juan Generating Station closing fairly soon. We're looking at the Four Corners Power Plant, looking at possible closure in the 2031 period. We've already seen the Navajo Generating Station close. Choya has indicated that they may be closing in 2025. The Escalante power plant is closing. And so again, given these realities that are in front of us, how do we begin to look at our next transition? How do we begin to look at the assets we have available? And how do we, as a collective community, begin to work together to take advantage of these assets and looking at, in all honesty, developing that plan B.
Right. Very true. Well, again, the event is tomorrow, beginning at 7:30 until about 9 at the Farmington Civic Center. And again, your guest and an expert senior program manager of resilient economies and communities with the National Association of Counties out of Washington, D.C. You mentioned the Navajo Generating Station, Arvin Trujillo, and I want to just ask you: are we kind of watching? And I mean you and your team and government officials and other folks watching what's going on over in Page. Page, Arizona, which was a community right next to the Navajo Generating Station, and if they're suffering economic troubles or have they been able to pivot and kind of reinvent themselves. Of course, they've got the Great Lake right nearby and some other economic diversification going on. But how much do we relate to what's going on in Page?
Well, we're observing what's happening there, and I've been talking with some of the leadership there. They're really working hard to find alternatives. It doesn't help that they have additional challenges with the lake and the amount of water that they have available in the lake. But they are really looking hard at how they can begin to transition, looking at what opportunities there are, doing many of the things that we're trying to do, looking at target industries, looking at how they can develop their workforce. But they have to try to do so in a much more accelerated manner than we currently have to. But that doesn't mean that we need to fall back and say, well, we're okay. We have to take a look and see what's happening there and take that information and incorporate that into what we're trying to do here. And so again, we're trying to learn from their efforts. They definitely have some challenges. We're looking at ways that we can partner with them to assist them as they move forward. Because again, this whole region will be going through what Page is going through when the Cholla power plant closes. That whole Holbrook-Winslow area is going to have to make some transitions there. And then as the Escalante power plant begins to close and possibly transition, again, the Grants area are going to be hit with challenges for themselves too. And so again, we're looking at how we can work with these communities, how we might be able to assist them as they move forward. And this will be continued discussions that we have with Mr. Morgan, looking at what we have coming forward here in the Four Corners area and seeing what other communities are doing in the wake of different power plants and different economic drivers shutting down.
Sure. And you mentioned the time frame, and of course, in my recollection, it seemed like the decision to close the Navajo Generating Station came fairly quickly. And you mentioned that we know that San Juan is planned to be shut down next year. APS, the Four Corners Power Plant, maybe 10 years from now. That seems like a lot of time, but I know it goes quickly. But in economic development terms, getting some advance notice is really very generous, right? To be able to plan for that future. If you have 10 years, that really helps you, doesn't it?
That does help us. And in fact, again, looking at what we're wanting to really begin to focus on, we're looking at the rail development. That's going to take some time, but we've got to really take a look at that because that brings advantages. Looking at broadband enhancement and development. That's another area that we're working on. Looking at this pump storage electric project and taking advantage of renewable development here in the region and supporting that effort. And the other piece, again, is looking at the hydrogen hub designation that the county is working towards. We've gotten the attention of the U.S. Department of Energy, but this is going to be a competitive process too. And so we're looking at the assets. One of the main assets we have in this area is natural gas. How can we utilize that in order to generate blue hydrogen? And again, that's going to be a point where we have to go out and begin to educate our community as to what blue hydrogen is and what it entails. And then how can our industries and the local businesses take advantage of that? And so again, those are things that we need to take a look at as we move forward. And it gives us some time to do that, but we can't sit back and say, well, we've got this handled. There's a lot of work that we got to get done. And unfortunately, the sun keeps coming up every day. Time keeps ticking, and before you know it, 2031 is going to be here.
That's true. Well, and it sounds like you and a lot of other folks have some plans for when that happens, and that's important to be working kind of towards that possible future. I wanted to ask you just a bit about the federal infrastructure bill that was passed last week in Washington. I think it's on its way to the president's desk. I know it's maybe too early to dig into it to see exactly all the things that might be in it, but I would assume some of that money should be trickling down here or be available here for some of the things you talk about, like broadband and roads and bridges and things along that line. Are you hoping to get a good piece of that pie?
That's what we're hoping to be able to do, and beginning this planning process on some of these major projects is a way that we hope that we begin to garner some attention here for the Four Corners region. Because again, we're looking at how to bring dollars here to really develop this infrastructure. And everybody recognizes that this might be a once in a lifetime opportunity to obtain this type of funding. And so we really need to strive to obtain our broadband enhancement aspects. We need to really look at how do we bring rail into the area, how do we enhance renewable development with the transmission infrastructure that we currently have. How can we utilize that to our benefit? And then looking at the hydrogen hub, there's going to be money in there too for specific communities to look at an area where you would produce hydrogen. And so again, those are things that we really need to take a look at. And sometimes that folks look at me and say, why are we looking at these big projects? Because we have to understand that we're losing some major economic drivers in the power plants and the mining industry that we have, and then we're seeing challenges on our oil and gas side. And so again, those investments there were in the billions of dollars to bring those power plants and mining operations up to speed. We have to look at similar projects that will allow us to bring new economic-based jobs into the region and really begin to build our economy as we move forward, looking into the future. So a lot of challenges there, but I have a lot of confidence in this community that we can meet those challenges and really come out really looking really good at the end of the day.
Well, I hope so, Arvin Trujillo, and I think a lot of other folks do too. And it seems to me that some of the other maybe folks in government, whether it's state government or the federal government, maybe can see how the investment in the past has paid off very well with these multi-billion, with a B, I would think, dollar projects when you talk about power plants and coal mines and things like that have provided decades of jobs and economic development and money for the state and energy for residents in at least two states, that the county does know how to manage these major investments and major projects, and the workforce is here that can get them done. And that's one of the pluses that we have, isn't it?
That is. We have skilled labor. We're working on our labor development or workforce development efforts here. We have a quality of life here that I think is very marketable. We can bring people into the region. We're still beginning to see people moving into this area. We have advantages in that it's a very stable area. We don't have hurricanes. We don't have tornadoes. We don't have earthquakes. And so again, those are things that we can really look at. And again, we have natural gas. We have skilled labor. We have manufacturing opportunities. We have good partners or real good potential partners with the Navajo Nation and Southwest Colorado. We have the Southern Utes, the Ute Mountain Utes. And so again, there's a lot of things that we have available here. And it's a matter of us coming together and really putting a good foot, our best foot forward as we begin to market ourselves, bring notoriety to the region, and provide industries and companies with options as they begin to look at their own development and where they want to locate their manufacturing or their industries. And that will help our small businesses to support those aspects. And so a lot of positives there, but we got a lot of work to do.
Very true. Well, but it sounds like you've got a lot of folks in your corner to work on this together, all pulling in the same direction, from the Navajo Nation to the local cities, the county, and even the state. And as you mentioned, getting the attention of the federal energy secretary as well for some of these projects that we're talking about. So it's always great to talk with you, Arvin Trujillo, and get updates on some of these efforts, because we're all in this together, as you have mentioned. And good luck tomorrow with your conference. Again, you've got room for more folks if they're available tomorrow morning between 7:30 and 9. It's a free event. You just needed them to register for breakfast and an important conversation about the future of communities that have been relying on the coal industry. And that's who your guest is speaking about, right?
That's correct. Again, we invite people to come. And I just want to send a shout out to our community. I mean, people have been stepping up and people have been really contributing towards our effort. And I would like that to continue. And I would like to invite others to come, join us, be a part of our efforts as we move forward and begin to learn what it means to dive into economic development and how you can be a part of that. We have a number of opportunities where you can participate and be a part of this effort. So I would encourage our community members to come and step forward and be a part of our efforts. And so again, I hope many of you will come to our economic briefing tomorrow. And as I indicated, we will be doing this on a quarterly basis, bringing speakers in from the region here or different parts of the country as we move forward in our economic development efforts.
Very good. Well, good luck with everything tomorrow, Arvin Trujillo. I always learn a lot when I talk with you, and so thank you for being with me again, and we'll talk again in about a month.
Thank you, Scott. You take care.
All right.
Good seeing you.
You too. Thank you very much. That's Arvin Trujillo, the CEO of Four Corners Economic Development, my guest this morning here on KSJE. KSJE is supported by the Farmington Civic Center, bringing a full slate of entertainment to Farmington and San Juan County. The American Ballet Studio Company. Tuesday, November 9th at 7:30 p.m. The Farmington Civic Center, 200 West Arrington in downtown Farmington. Find out more online at fmtn.org/shows or at 505-599-1148.